stream as well. There's gonna be a little lag. Um, Hold on. Copy that over
Where are you sending it to?
your email.
Okay.
Okay, we can get started. People can hop in as they want to. All right. We're back. It's Saturday, April 12th, 2025. Joining me is my electric co-host, Jeff Benedict, former radio host for 92.9 The Game in Atlanta, Falcons insider, professor, coach, SDK security guard. Jeff can freaking do it all. We're less than 2 weeks out from the NFL draft, and we have another tight agenda. Before we get into Falcons content and what's going on around the league, on X, you can find Jeff at JMBCU16. That's Jeff's handle. My handle is at Andrew Duhan. The Flight Path podcast is now on YouTube, Spotify, so wherever you consume your content, we're trying to get that going everywhere. And today we're also live on YouTube, so in future episodes, we'll make that news a little more public. We'll give you guys more advanced warnings so you can drop in and ask questions as we go along. But appreciate all your guys' support. Jeff, let's get into some Falcons news. So yesterday, Atlanta had a local pro day where they had over 88 prospects attending the facility. And among UGA players attending were Malachi Starks and Jalen Walker. We know that Falcons are looking at both of them with their first round pick, but also there were Dylan Fairchild and Jared Wilson, two offensive linemen from the Bulldogs, are also there too. And maybe Atlanta could look at Jared Wilson, who's a center, as a potential Drew Dahlman replacement. Is there anything you heard about that pro day that's worth sharing with the audience?
So here's what I'll tell you guys that I know from personal experiences and guys that I used to coach that have gone through that. You have to have gone either to high school or college in the state of Georgia to get an invite to that local pro day, right? Like, and that's all it is. It's really the Falcons give back to the local community, right? Like, hey, we know you went to North Cobb High School or Buford High School, or you went to Colquitt County, or you went to high school in Hull. Like, it just so like you have to be a local kid essentially, right? Again, high school or college to get an invite. I don't think they've ever drafted anybody who's actually attended that local pro day type scenario. You want to hear the bullshit part about that, though? Is when you show up, you get to Flowery Branch, you check in, you go into their practice facility to kind of go through the motion. They talk to you. They hand you out workout gear. You get changed to get ready for this. At the end of the workout, you have to give back the gear.
Oh, that's bullshit, man.
Keep it.
Come on, they're college kids, Georgia natives. Let them have it.
You have to. They have you give back the shorts and the T-shirt that you work out in.
Yeah, a lot of those kids are probably Falcons fans. So the fact that they can't even keep the merch. Come on, man. They work so hard.
Yeah, like it was crazy. Because I was an assistant high school coach in Georgia for a couple of years, 20 years ago, and we had a lot of kids. Like at the high school that I coached at, we had two guys go in top 10 in a matter of about 5 years, right? So we had a lot of kids get invited to that because again, we had a lot of kids end up in the NFL. And so I took some guys to that coming out of college. I was there for a couple of them. So I've seen the process. I've been I've watched these guys go through it. I've never been through it, obviously. But I've taken guys to Flowery Branch to go through that. So I watched it. I know what it's about. But yeah, like they have to give back the workout gear. So like, I get it. I shout out to the Falcons for at least having a local pro day. Right. But let them keep the shit. Like, you are an NFL team. You make millions upon millions of dollars. Nike provides you this shit anyway. Let them keep it. What's the issue? Oh,
It's absolutely brutal, man. That I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't even want to get into it, but that's crazy. So, um, another thing that I wanted to point out to you that I think you're gonna get a really big kick out of this. Kyle Pitts went on Cam Newton's, I think, 4th and 1 podcast. I apologize to him if I got the podcast name wrong, but essentially, Pitts sort of alluded to the fact that he's basically going into the offseason for the first time having continuity at quarterback, and really like his day one QB starters, whether it's Matt Ryan, Ritter, whatever, in each of the 5 seasons that he's going to be playing, he's had a different quarterback. So this is the first time where he can establish some chemistry. But one thing caught my eye, Jeff, and I think you're gonna find this funny. Cam Newton basically asked him a question like, "Hey, like, what would be a successful season for the Falcons? Like, what do you guys need to do really? Like, what would define success for you?" I swear, Pitts with so much conviction just slams the table. He's like, "First round playoffs," and I'm like, "Dude, seriously? Like this? Like that is a table slamming thing?" I'm like, "Bro." I'm like, there's so I mean, he had me. I felt bad for him that like he had 5 different QBs. He was suffering. But I'm like, how could you like say something like this? Everybody's like kind of like, talking shit about you, and you go and say something like that. It was hilarious, man.
I, this isn't going to be popular, and it's also not going to be new if you follow me, right? Just trade him. And ultimately, it's not because I don't think he's not talented. It's because he's going to have a breakout year, right? Like you and I talked on your FF Metrics podcast, last year, where I thought Pitts was going to be among 1 or 2 when it came to targets and catches, because I thought last year was going to be the year that he finally established himself as a true weapon in the NFL. Clearly, I was wrong. Okay. But if you do have that this year with him, you are not going to pay him what the market rate is going to pay him. And you're also not going to want to wait till 2027 to get your bullshit comp pick for letting him walk. Trade him now, get something more than what you'll get from a comp pick, and move on. And that to me, that circus is just more of this dude doesn't get it. I'm sorry. 5 quarterbacks in 5 years is a bullshit excuse. Like, that has nothing to do with you giving up on routes. That has nothing to do with you dropping balls. That has nothing to do with you not showing that you give a damn about what's going on a football field. Like, all that is all just fluff, right? And to me, like, if you're going to have the charade of slamming down the table and saying first round playoffs, like, bro, come on, man. Like, that's just... again, like, I get it. He's talented. Like, I'm never going to tell you that he's not talented. Is he top 5 talented? Absolutely not. Was he worthy of being a first tight end off the board? Absolutely was. You'd not change my mind on that part of it. But like, you're never going to see, like, nobody's ever going to ask, insert any elite tight end ever and have them go first round playoffs, roar, right? Like, it's just never going to happen, right? So again, like, he's not going to get traded anytime soon, but like, he shouldn't be a Falcon next year. Again, not because I don't think he can't contribute. I think he's going to end up having a elite year, right? Like, I really do. But he's going to have an elite year because he's focused on getting the next paycheck, not because he's finally going to have turned the corner. And to me, those type of dudes can just piss off.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. I wish the guy was locked in. I want him to be good. We spent a 4th fucking overall pick on the guy. Like, I hope that the trade's not going to happen. Like, let's be real. The only thing we can hope for is the guy just kind of like, maybe Penix is a really good leader and could get Pitts to kind of focus in. That's our Hail Mary here.
Right. Oh, 100%. And look, I think, this offense is not going to be a problem next year if everybody stays healthy. You start this, you saw at the end of the year the chemistry that Penix has with those guys. If you can keep him upright, you can keep him healthy, this offense is going to be explosive. I have no doubt about that one. I don't worry about the offense. I actually don't lose sleep at night because I go, damn, how are they going to score points? Because I think they're going to be just fine. But I also need my offensive guys to not slam tables and talk about first round playoff games, right? Like, I need guys to be focused on hey, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. We're trying to get better. We're trying to be better. You know, it's been 8 years. Like, come out and say, you know, it's been 8 years since we've been in the playoffs. Like, you know, we know Atlanta's hungry for something. We want to give them what they want. That's what we're focused on. Like that. That's the way you answer that phone. You don't go, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to end up in the first round of the playoffs, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous, man. Like,
oh my god, Jeff, look, you know, you and I, we have day jobs that occupy a lot of our freaking brain Monday through Friday. So I have the podcast on in the background. He says it, and I kind of just had a reaction like you did. Like, my computer fell, like I just like bursted laughing. I'm like, this didn't just happen right now, because like he's just speaking to his stereotype. But here's the thing, though. I mean, say what you want. I like that Penix likes him. And in the most crucial situation, playoffs on the line, we're on the road, going into overtime, 4th and 10 or whatever, to tie the game, Penix throws him the ball. Like, Penix does trust him. So that's the only silver lining here. So hopefully it translates to something. I'm not hopeful, but we'll see what happens.
Agreed.
Okay, next one. The Browns signed Joe Flacco to, I believe, a deal worth up to $13 million this year, but it's about $4 million minimum. So what everybody started doing on X, a lot of Falcons fans and media, was like, oh, okay, this precludes them from going for Kirk Cousins. Now people are starting to speculate that Cousins could end up in Pittsburgh. Jeff, what do you think of this whole situation?
I just don't like. I guess I'm of the minority where the Falcons just aren't, like we said on you know, I think it was last week we talked about it, man. Like, the Falcons aren't in a rush to just get something done. You know, ultimately you still need a backup. Like, as good as, you know, we think Michael Penix can be, he still has an injury history that people want to kind of, you know, they want to sweep under the rug. And I could give I could care less, or I could not care less of what Kirk Cousins wants, right? Like, you want to go, you be a starter in the league. Well, damn, you should have played better last year then, huh? You know what I mean? Like, if you really want to be a starter in 2025, maybe you shouldn't have sucked ass in 2024. Like that's how I look at it. That's probably, like, it's a good thing that I'm not an owner, because I'd be more like Jerry Jones. Not that I would be, like, you know, meddling and everything, because I'd flat out tell you, I don't give a damn what you want. I paid you $100 million. You can carry a clipboard, and I don't give a damn where you get it from. You know, be ready to play if your name is called. Because ultimately, like, you know, you put out a tweet yesterday where you talked about kind of like what it would take for the Falcons to get certain levels of draft picks, right? Like, ultimately, if you want a high draft pick from Kirk Cousins, you're going to have to eat a lot of that salary, right? And so, like, there isn't a single second round draft pick that I can think of that is worth $50 million for, right? Because that's ultimately what you're saying is, hey, we believe a second round pick in 2026 is worth eating $40 million of salary for. Like, and maybe, you know, maybe it's kind of jaded to look at that way, because if you're paying him regardless, at least you get a second round pick out of him. I understand that aspect of it. But again, I need that. If I'm paying you $40 million, I need you here. I need you in the locker room. I need you to be a leader, and I need you to be ready to play in case my essentially rookie quarterback gets hurt. And you know, we have a playoff level caliber team. I need you to be ready to go. And so for me, as much as people don't like Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, as much as it sucked watching him throw 9 interceptions in October last year, whatever it was, I'm not paying you $40 million to leave, right? Okay. Like, this isn't a situation like Pittsburgh had, you know, 10, 15 years ago with Roethlisberger, you know, allegedly raping girls in bathrooms, and you're trying to get rid of that PR nightmare, right? Like, this isn't that situation. You're upset because he basically, you know, tried to play injured last year, threw a lot of interceptions in a short amount of time, and the season went to shit. Other than that, like, I don't need to get rid of Kirk Cousins unless a deal falls in my lap that I absolutely can't turn down, that works out in more than one way for me.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we've already paid him $62.5. We're not getting that money back, right? The only thing at play right now is $27.5 million. That's his 2025 base salary. The way that I constructed those scenarios was pretty much looking at the Brock Osweiler trade from 2017, where I believe the Browns ate $17 million of salary to just literally have Brock on their roster, and the Texans rewarded them with essentially a second round pick. Now, here's the difference though. Kirk is actually going to play. Brock was a dead contract. Like, they were never going to play Brock. So he does provide some value. It's not zero, but that's where I'm going with it. I completely agree though. Even the 17.5 for that future second, and if you trend it up today, if you just take the 17.5 million from back then and you do it as a percentage of the salary cap and you apply it to the current salary cap, it's exactly Kirk's 27.5. So it is financially, it's the same thing.
Identical.
But is it worth what like, if you think a second round pick is worth 27.5 million, if you actually look at the draft trade value charts or whatever and you extrapolate that up to the number one overall pick, that math works out to the number one overall pick being worth $200 million, which there's no way that's true. So all of this shit is inflated. I agree. I personally would just rather have someone just take him off the books. Let us retain nothing. Let us get nothing. Let's just be done with this.
Yeah, I think it's to that point of it. Like, it's going to be a distraction, right? Like, you know, he's going to be here. We all know he has a tendency to slip up and say shit he shouldn't say. And he's going to come out and he's going to say somebody, you know, like Orlando Ledbetter is going to ask some retarded question. Sorry, he's going to ask some question that he's going to get an answer for. And Kirk Cousins is going to give the answer that he was hoping he would. And next thing you know, now Penix has 19 cameras in his face trying to worry about some dumbass answer from his backup quarterback. And it's going to send this city in an absolute tailspin. So from that standpoint, I absolutely get it. I just think the Falcons just aren't in a rush to get rid of him because they want to make sure that something works for them, not just for him. Because ultimately, this deal worked just for him, not for them.
And we know that QBs can get injured. Our division rivals are dealing with that right now. Derek Carr, out of nowhere, has a shoulder issue that's threatening his 2025 season. So, I mean, things can happen. Not saying we're going to trade Kirk to our division rival, although I would love to see him in a Saints uniform getting killed by our defense. That would be awesome. But
be hilarious.
Yeah, so that situation's even crazier, Jeff. I put out a couple posts on X about this too. The Saints are really, like, they really botched the situation here, and it's funny because Atlanta's getting so much heat for the way they handled Cousins' contract and whatever. But, you know, the thing is, when they paid Cousins all that money, they really didn't know how high they were on Michael Penix. At that point, when they paid him $100 million guaranteed, whatever, like, they thought this guy is going to be our quarterback for the next 3-4 years. This is why we're giving him $100 million. But then, you know, and it's their fault for not knowing, like, hey, like, there is this kid out there. Maybe we should look into him more before, you know, handing Kirk that money. That part is their fault, 100%. But at that point in time, when they handed Kirk the money, they didn't freaking know. And then, obviously, they have that pro day April 4th with Penix, and they fall in love. They draft him, fine, and they end up being right. Here's what the Saints did wrong. First of all, Derek Carr is a mid quarterback. You could have moved off of him. You guys are, even if you made the wild card round, any one of the NFC powerhouses was gonna politely escort you out of the play. Like, that was your ceiling. You were not going higher than the wild card round. But instead, what the Saints did, they could have, first day of the offseason in 2025, they could have cut Carr for very, like, basically nothing. Like, they wouldn't really have a dead cap charge, and they could have manipulated the cap in such a way to actually get cap space in 2025. Instead, they cut him a check for almost $40 million and prepay his base salary and his roster bonus for this year. 1 month later, the guy might not even play in 2025. They are in freaking denial. At least we know. Let's cut our losses. We fucked up. We gave Kirk a contract we shouldn't have. Right? Like, we know. We're trying to move off of it. They have been living in denial since Breeze retired.
And it couldn't happen to a better fan base. It couldn't happen better to a better, like, you know, I just, at what point do you not just hope that the wrath of God happens upon a city, right, or to a franchise. I mean, for you to go give the Catholic diocese, help on how to cover up sex scandals and all the other shit that they've done over the last 10 years, is just when shit like this happens to the Saints, you can't help but like look up and go, thank you, appreciate you. They are living proof that karma's a bitch, and I'm here for every single moment of it. I love it.
It's wild. And you know what's the sad part of all of this? Like, they had a path to have become a powerhouse like into the 2020s. Like, they were one pick from Patrick Mahomes. Had they drafted Mahomes, Sean Payton stays. All those defenders they hit, don't forget, this is the franchise that drafted Zach Bond, Trey Hendrickson, Cam Jordan. They, during the Sean Payton era, were just hitting draft picks. Yeah. We would have been beyond fucked if if they drafted Mahomes. Like, they could have probably, like, honestly, especially in this weak-ass division, too, they would have cleaned us up, man.
Oh, and they would have made the pick. Mahomes was going to New Orleans. They had no idea that Kansas City was going to swoop in there and grab him. Thankfully, this is one of those. This is one of those scenarios where we don't have to, where we can go, damn, that what if would have been really nasty. Because that what if would have been really, really nasty. Because, as good as Mahomes has been, having him with Sean Payton would have been just as much success, because Payton, I mean, look what that dude did with Bo Nix, right? Like, I live in the South. I know what Bo Nix looked like at Auburn. Good Lord. I know what he looked like at Auburn. I know people remember him at Oregon, but I've seen how bad that kid can be. And yet, he's in there, he's over in Denver now, absolutely balling, right? Like, it's absolutely crazy to me. And there's no doubt in my mind that Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes with Sean Payton. There's zero doubt in my mind.
So there was this draft day story I believe back in 2017 where Gruden in like an ESPN meeting room is like, hey, the two teams that are going to be interested in Mahomes are going to be KC because of Reed and Sean Payton because and New Orleans because of Payton, because I believe they both had experience working with Favre. And they're like, they both saw Favre when he was younger, and Gruden obviously had experience with him too. And he's like, right, this kid's like Favre. They're seeing Favre. I can see it too. And the thing about Sean, as good of a coach as he is so freaking arrogant. His downfall is he has his head up his ass, and that pretty much caused him to miss out on Mahomes. Not thinking like no one's thinking about Mahomes. Bears are thinking about Trubisky, whatever. Like we got him. But he almost...
Remember who the big name in that draft was, though?
Fuck. I don't remember. Who was it?
Deshaun Watson was the big quarterback name in that draft.
It was Watson. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was mixing up drafts.
When Mahomes got picked, my phone blew up from my radio people going, damn, how bad did your boy fuck up that they took Patrick Mahomes? Because coming out of Texas Tech, he was not on a whole lot of people's radars, right? And so this just goes to your point of Sean Payton really thought that he was going to slip in under the radar and go grab this kid because he didn't think anybody else was paying attention to him. Because, he threw for a shit ton of yards at Texas Tech, but they were terrible. Now, they weren't terrible because of him. They were terrible because they had no defense at Texas Tech. But Peyton really thought that he had found this diamond in the rough and he was going to be able to steal him, because everybody talked about Mitch coming into that draft, which was crazy because that dude started 4 games at North Carolina, and somehow, the white savior jumps in and is the number 1 pick. But then it was Deshaun Watson, right? Because Watson's last 2 years at Clemson, back-to-back national title games, current national champion, gets invited, should have won the Heisman Trophy over Lamar Jackson, and I will die on that hill to the day I die, right? I will die on, it is what it is. Nobody was talking about Mahomes because those were the 2 quarterbacks that everybody had going in the top 5. And when you're sitting there and you're going, holy shit, Deshaun's dropping. What is going on? And then you hear Patrick Mahomes' name get called. People were flabbergasted that this kid out of Texas Tech was all of a sudden getting this love before. Again, Deshaun, who was like the sweetheart, and obviously times have completely changed over the last 10 years. But, Deshaun was sitting on that board in the green room. People are going, wait a minute, like, what did we miss? Well, now we know what guys like Andy Reid and Sean Payton saw, because the dude was an absolute stud, or is an absolute stud.
Yeah, exactly. And, speaking to that point, too, it's more like Peyton didn't want to trade up to, like, secure his guy, could have changed life in New Orleans, but he did the same freaking thing with the Broncos, where he wouldn't move up for Nicks, and luckily he got him. But what the hell was going to happen if, for example, the Jets, who were dead set, like, we're taking Olu Fashu or whatever with the 10th pick, what if the Raiders just offered them, like, a second, a third, or whatever, and just swap places and took Nicks? Then Peyton would be kind of like left at the altar again. Like, it almost happened. He got so lucky that Nicks fell to him. Like, that would have been disastrous. And now he has his guy. Everything looks good. But I'm telling you, the one thing about him, his downfall, like, he just can't, like, he thinks he's the smartest person in the room. And 99% of the time, he probably is. But, like, even in your own division, right, like, there's a smarter guy, and you're going up against the person you could have had. Think about it. Think about what he's thinking. Like, if I just traded up one freaking pick, I would have Mahomes. Now I have to now he's my nightmare. Now I have to deal with him for the next 10 years in this freaking division.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Yeah, because you already had your ass, Drew Brees already owned your ass for the 10, 12 years he was there. And then you're looking at, potentially not even 10 years. You're looking at like 15 to 20 potentially more years with Mahomes in New Orleans. And it would have been. I'm glad we don't have to live that nightmare. I am absolutely ecstatic we don't have to live that nightmare.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, okay. This is going to be a non-NFL topic and not related to the Falcons, but there was a bombshell today. Yeah. UT quarterback. UT. I know Jeff doesn't like that school, but I mean, that's the college football team that I do follow. But UT's quarterback, Nico I can't even pronounce his last name, Iamaleava or whatever, is basically saying UT. That's exactly what he's saying. That is the headline. I am leaving UT. Basically, I think what happened was he missed the practice today, and head coach Josh Heupel, credit to him, is like, all right, guys off our team. What I've been reading, Jeff, and I'm not as big in college football as I am with the NFL. He wanted a couple $1 million more in NIL, and basically UT wasn't budging, and it kind of led to this dispute, and it led to Holden. Here's where I think things are gonna go wrong in college football. You have a kid like Nico, who, in my opinion, was getting propped up higher than he should. He was way too hyped up. I think I even saw that he was like 4th or 5th, like, best odds to win the Heisman. He's not anywhere close to that. But the thing is, Jeff, what's going to happen is these kids are getting such a big head now, and they think that they're so much better than they are. They don't realize that year 2 to year 3 in college is a big deal. And now you're switching programs. You're leaving Knoxville, who, like, say what you want. I think they have a good program that could potentially cultivate him, and they have an offensive line. They made the playoffs last year, whatever. Like, just having that continuity there, maybe he could have, from year 2 to year 3, done something. But now with the transfer portal and all these things, I think it's going to really hurt QBs like Nico, who's going to try to hook up with a team. Like, what if he does go to Ohio State? Is it a guarantee that the guy even starts? He got freaking dismantled by that defense. Like, he gave up a starting position on an SEC school, keeping the continuity, the coaching staff, and everything. And now he can go from, what if he just had a crazy almost Heisman? Yeah, I still don't think he would have won the Heisman. Let's just say he finished 3rd or 4th, and maybe it would have ended up in a day 2 NFL pick next year. Very likely he could end up, like, not being drafted if he declares next year. Like, that is on the table now.
I'm going to give a shout out to my head coach. Dabo Swinney has been preaching from the pulpit for almost 10 years now about how if you didn't have strong parameters with the releasing of the NIL stuff, that this was exactly what was going to happen, right? And everybody took it as, oh, look, white racist Dabo Swinney doesn't want to pay young black kids to go play college football. He wants to make, and that's literally what has been painted of Dabo, right? But everything that Dabo said was going to happen is absolutely happening, and it is destroying college football. And my best friend will tell you, I love him. Shout out to him. I have said for 20 years now that guys in college should be getting paid. So I am not an anti-paying college player, right? My master's degree is in human resources, but my specific area is actually athletic leadership, right? Because I thought at one point I wanted to go in and be an athletic director. So part of my 200-page thesis to graduate was both on Title IX as well as the history of college athletics. And people don't understand or don't know that the term amateurism wasn't coined by college athletics until the early 1950s. And the reason that they did that was because these guys were considered employees, specifically football players. And remember, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they didn't play with actual helmets and like face masks. So these guys were filing, claims, worker comp claims, and schools were having to pay a ton of money to these football players. So they came up with that phrase, amateurism, and it went a completely different trajectory, right? So I say all of that to say, one, shout out to Dabo. That dude was right, and all of you owe him an apology because everything that he said was correct. You just didn't like the message coming from the messenger itself. If it had come from anybody else, you would have listened. But here's the issue with Nico, right? And by the way, shout out to Dan Lanning too, right? Because the word is Lanning is the one who called Heupel and said, hey, his dad's out here calling everybody, shopping him around.
Whoa, I didn't see that. That's nuts.
So shout out to him for doing that, right? If Nico played, how many touchdowns as a Tennessee fan, how many touchdowns do you know did he have in SEC play last year? Do you know?
I don't know the SEC Cup, but against Bama, Georgia, and Ohio State, he threw a total of 1 touchdown.
He had 9 total touchdowns against SEC teams last year. And he didn't throw anything against Ohio State. He had 9 total touchdowns last year in SEC play. 4 of them came against Vanderbilt in the last game of the year. Okay, so he had 5 touchdowns and the other 8 games, 0 rushing touchdowns. And you're going to tell me that you and your dad and your entire team thought it was a great fucking idea to come back and say, hey, I'm worth $4 million now instead of $2 million? Like, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. And
he
yes,
cost himself.
Yeah, he did. But like, this needs to be the wake-up call that college football needs to say, hey, we got to set some parameters here. And I think Jay Bilas, like, people don't like the message coming from the messenger. Jay Bilas hit this shit on the head. He said every college football player needs to have coaching contracts, and you get a 3-year deal with a option for a 4th, and if you leave, you owe that school a buyout. Yeah. Done. Make it happen. But here's why it will never happen. Because the one conference in the country who did, like, I don't know if you remember, but it was like 6 or 7 years ago, NCAA came out because college scholarships are year to year, right? They renewed July 1st of every year, and they go through the end of June the next year, right? So the fiscal year, right? That's when they happen. So, like, you go in there the last day of June, it's the last day you're on scholarship, you go in there, you sign your new one, so that the next day you're good to go, right? Like, so all of us, like, it was basically a long line of every athlete going into whatever office you were in. You went in there, you signed your scholarships, and you're good to go, right? What was it, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, NCAA came out and said, you know what, we're not going to do this. If you want to offer a kid a 4-year scholarship, sign them up for a 4-year. The one conference that didn't want to do it was the SEC. Why? Because for decades now, the SEC has believed in roster management, meaning this: if a guy that they've recruited does not work out or is not living up to the projection that they had for him, they want to be able to cut the kid and move on. And they have always done that. And that to me has always been to the detriment of the athlete, because for me, the one thing that I love about my head coach is Dabo doesn't care if you didn't live up to the expectations that they had for you had for yourself. He's not going to give up on you because he committed to you for the rest of your life. Clemson is a lifelong commitment. It is not a 3-year commitment, and I love my head coach for that. So he was absolutely willing to give out guys these 3 and 4 year contracts for scholarships, because he's committed to you regardless of how you pan out, because he's more worried about you as the man, not you as the player. But SEC coaches did not want to do that because they did not want a 4-year commitment to a guy who didn't come in and wasn't going to work hard or wasn't going to pan out. So that's the issue that you see is you will never see SEC teams, and this is the reason this will only get worse in college football because SEC programs do not believe in long-term commitment to athletes. They just don't. Right, wrong, or indifferent, if a guy's not working out, they don't want to be able to have him on the roster for the next year. So I think Jay Billis hit this on the head. You cut out 99% of this bullshit if you sign a guy to a 3-year contract with an option for a 4th year, and if they leave, they owe you a buyout. That cuts out all the bullshit. That cuts out all the parents like Nico's dad who's making these secret bullshit phone calls to other coaches saying, hey, you want my kid? Because I'll tell you, to your point, going into year 3 that's a big detriment to him. Like not many guys, and yes, you look at like Will Howard. That dude left after his 4th year in a program. He was really good at Kansas State before he said, I'm going to go win a title somewhere. So it's not like he was hop, skipping, and jumping around. Kirby Smart, the Georgia head coach last week, talked about how 10 years from now, he wants somebody to do a study on what happened to all of these kids that went to 2, 3, 4, not 3, but went to 3, 4, 5 different colleges versus the kids that went to 1 or 2. And he said, because I promise you, and we all know this, those kids that stayed, worked hard, grinded their asses off, you're going to be more successful because that's your mindset. Your mindset is you're going to compete. You don't give a shit what happens behind you. Like you are willing to put in the work versus a kid who wants the easy way out. And if you're only worried about money, you're not worried about being a leader because leaders don't worry about that. Money takes care of themselves when it comes to leadership. You're worried about being the best available player and the best teammate and the best leader you can be. And, I know UT people don't want to hear this. You are better off without him. You're 100%.
100%.
He was carried by an elite defense last year and an elite running game. That's why Tennessee got to the playoff last year with him at quarterback. It had nothing to do with him. And you are 100% better off. Josh Heupel is better because look at the precedent that sets, by the way, if they give into that demand. Now you lose everybody because everybody's going to be like, nope, I'm sitting down because I want more money. So shout out to UT and shout out to Heupel for making that decision because I guarantee you it wasn't easy.
And I have a weird feeling that this is not going to work out for Nico financially too because he's looking for 4. I don't know that any school's going to give him that. I think his dad, and it sucks. I really do feel bad for the kid because if he has his dad in his ear, like, hey, like, come on, like, you can get injured next year. Let's grab another $2 million. I get that. But, like, the thing is, the heart of the NIL, the heart of it is for the kids not to worry about anything financial throughout the full 4 years they're in college. And they should get a share of it. The NCAA for years has, like, ignored all of this. They've been racking in crazy profits. Like I saw a post out there. This is a massive overcorrection, but now we're too much on the other way. And if we don't set in rules, if we don't have boundaries like this, it's just going to be wild, wild west. What's going to preclude Tennessee from going up to Dylan Raiola in Nebraska and throwing $10 million in his face to be the quarterback? And by the way, I would, as a Tennessee fan, I'd be elated, but it's wrong. It's kind of like, what if the Falcons could just go and grab any freaking player they want, just pay him and just bring him over, right? Like, in theory, as a fan, I would love that, and I would love for Raiola to come over, but for the good of for the game, for competitiveness, like this isn't the way to go down. Like, it just doesn't make sense
at all. And loyalty has to mean something, and you talk about the overcorrection. I work in an industry full time where you see the result of overcorrections, and it usually ends up with somebody dead, right? And obviously that's a really dramatic point to make, but when you overcorrect because you were wrong to begin with, that's when really bad things happen, and that's what we're seeing right now. And college football is going to lose a lot of fans because a lot of fans really do believe in that amateurism phrase, which I've never believed in. But like you've gone well past amateurism, you've gone well past name, image, likeness. You were supposed to be getting paid for your name to be on billboards or your image to be in, I'll never forget. I went to Clemson, went to there's literally a gas station across the street from campus. Okay. Sorry, convenience store. It's not even a gas station, convenience store. It's actually directly across the street from historic Riggs Field. okay, on campus, which is where soccer plays now. It's where football played like their first year or whatever. There's a convenience store there. And I walked in one day and I saw Taj Boyd. Shout out to Taj. I saw Taj Boyd's silhouette there hawking Bud Light. Okay. Something that college football can't even like they can't even advertise alcohol in their own stadiums. But the convenience store 100 feet or 50 feet across campus had a silhouette of your All-American quarterback hawking Bud Light. And he wasn't getting a dime for that. And you knew it was him because it was his bigger build. It was his like it was everything except for his name. I mean, that even the board that they used was dark complected, right? Like you knew it was Taj. He wasn't getting a dime for that. You know, Deshaun Watson had one of the highest selling jerseys in college football. He didn't get a dime from that. Like, so for me, those guys should always have been paid because everybody else got rich. You know, I look at the Ohio State, this is where I was like, this is bullshit. 10 years ago, it came out, the Ohio State AD at the time, and I think he's actually still there, and I forget his name because he's just not worth remembering. But part of his contract was the wrestling team GPA was like a 3.5, and he got a $200,000 bonus for their GPA. Bitch, you have nothing to do with their academic progress. You have nothing to do with how well they do in the classroom, but you're profiting off of it? Like that, to me, I was like, all right, this is bullshit. Literally everybody but the athlete is getting rich off the athlete. And instead of allowing that to kind of play out and allow guys to get something, you've now allowed guys to come in and say, I'm not playing for less than $4 million. Like it's absolutely absurd.
I honestly feel bad for the kids, really, because I think there's going to be a lot of family pressure, more so than they've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what the right solution is, Jeff. Like, do you lock up the NIL funds in some sort of mechanism that you have to graduate to unlock it or something like that? Instead of putting the money in the kids' hands, they go buy a Lambo, they go, get their mom a house, everything, they do some right things, they do some wrong things, but at the end of the day, these are 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids that, like, even me at 30 or whatever years old right now, if you threw that kind of money at me, I'd be like, whoa, what, and that's me, like, decades older than them. Like, it's too much for them to handle. They don't have the training. They're so young and they're hearing everyone in their ear just ask for money. Like, even NFL players coming in, right? They have that rookie symposium where they go talk about finances. These kids have no idea what they're getting themselves into.
They don't, right? And they're being set up for failure. And, Dabo, Coach Sweeney has said for years that NIL money should be tied to graduation. Yes, give them some now so they have something to live on so they can, be comfortable and they can, if you got to send money home. But the majority, for him, he always said the majority should be tied up in graduation. Give them, that way when they leave here with a diploma and they leave with a check for $4 million, because now that sets them up for life. And it allows them to go buy their first house, allows them to start a business. It allows them versus giving a kid $2 million now for mom and dad to piss the money away because they're in charge of it and the kid still ends up with nothing, right? Like tied to something important. But that also comes from a coach where you look over the last 10 years, literally outside of Northwestern, Clemson has the highest graduation rate among all Division I football programs. Like that's not an accident, right? But I think it's like 7 kids that have played at Clemson for at least 3 years have graduated. The 7 that didn't all left early for the NFL draft. 2 of them have come back to get their degree, right? So like graduating at Clemson is a big deal. And that's why Dabo wanted it tied to graduation rates, because ultimately you still should be, you should still be graduating these kids. Academics should still be a focus. And I completely agree on that, right? Like, you have degrees, I have degrees. We can talk about the return on the investment of whether it was worth it or not. That's a whole different conversation to have. But these guys, like, that's why they're there. They're there to get an education. They're there to play ball. They're there to be successful on and off the field. And if you're only there worried about getting a $4 million check, you're not taking care of responsibilities and other things that you need to be worried about.
Yeah, exactly. You hit it on the head there.
I mean, hell, I'll be honest, Andrew. Give me $4 million at 19-year-old, and I'm doing a lot of fuckery. The debauchery that I'm coming up with at 19 has never been seen before, right? Like we can crack jokes about snorting cocaine off a hooker's ass. Like the things that I would have done at 19 with that kind of money in my pocket is absolutely insane. And we're acting like it's really not that big of a deal. And it's
You're
a
not
huge deal.
alone though. Like that, it's insane for anybody. Like 70, like they are too. We think that NFL players coming in, like rookies, are too young. This is their brains are 3 years less developed coming in. Like it's just crazy
Yeah.
to me. They have to lock it up or something. They gotta lock up the money and maybe like you graduate, you get that first tier. 5 years later, you get another tier. You got to protect the players from themselves and from their family too, because it's really not fair to them.
And you also need to put in something where they can't like sell to like JG Wentworth, right? Where they can go get like a lump sum. They sell like 10 years worth of lump sums for like, a quarter of what it's worth. Like, you give them financial literacy courses, make sure that you have people available to them to understand how to make money last, how to properly invest it. And it's not in your Uncle Pookie's get rich quick scheme, right? Like it's an actual, whether you're talking, certain insurance life insurance policies that you can borrow. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can invest money, make money, and be successful. And these kids don't know any of it. For us as males, our brains aren't fully functioned until 25, but we're out here giving these kids millions upon millions of dollars when they're still kids. Like it's absolutely insane.
I think about the shit that I used to do when I was 25 or younger, and I'm just I get anxiety thinking about how stupid I was, and like now we're talking 17 years old, like that's too. And the thing is, like, if you're gonna be eligible for NIL, right? Like you should go through this application process where like you got to take these courses, whatever, like these financial literacy before you're eligible to even receive the money, and then on top of that, the school you're going to, those schools should like call their alma maters, whether it's UT, whatever. UT should call on like Peyton, and all those other like big time, Camara, whatever. Like get them to be mentors for these kids. Like, hey, I've been through it. This is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. I'm always here for you. Like, stuff like that. Like start a program like that. Help them out, because the way that it is, it's kind of like we're throwing money at them, and it's not fair. Like yeah, I don't know. I feel very
You know
strongly
what the
about
name
that.
of that program should be? The name of that program should be Just Say No, right? Because saying no is how you keep your millions.
Yeah,
Because you get all of a sudden you go from, and not that Nico didn't grow up poor, right? Like that is not the case at all. But a lot of these guys don't come from money, and you give them $2 million, they start saying yes to a lot of different people. And look at what's his name, the old Alabama running back that got drafted by the Browns 10, 15 years ago, Trent Richardson, right? Like he's openly talked about how, at one point he didn't know it, but he ended up finding out he had like 15 Netflix accounts because he couldn't say no to people. And he was like, I'm paying for Netflix 15 different times every month because I basically was an open bank account for people because I couldn't say no. Learn how to say no. Yes. If you feel, and obviously there's a lot of cultural differences, right? There are kids who feel like they owe their parents something. There are kids who feel like they owe like their lifelong best friend something. There are kids that like they feel, but ultimately it's okay to say no. And if they get mad at you, they were never your people to begin with.
exactly.
And so, teaching these kids to say no, teaching these kids to put themselves first, teaching these kids how to invest, and not go broke, and how to vet out the proper attorneys and proper tax people and proper entities that you need in your corner as paramount. And these kids are getting none of that.
Yeah, they're just gonna blow through all that money, and they're gonna be 25 years old, no degree, and what was all this for?
Yep.
It's ridiculous. But okay, Jeff, I'm gonna hit the chat. There's one question in there that I wanted you to address. So, JB7, if you had to put a percentage on it, how likely are the Falcons to just stay at 15 rather than trading up or down?
I think right now you're looking at 50-50.
Wow.
Right? Like I think right now you're at 50-50. I know that there's, I think the issue is you have so many people, and I can only speak for Falcons Twitter because I see it every day. I live it every day. There are accounts with large amount of followers who want you to believe that one day the Falcons are moving up, then they're going to move back, then they're going to stay put, then they're going to draft Mike Green, then they're going to take Starks. Like, there's a reason I don't put out something every day, right now, because right now they are still, and this is the latest they've ever done, they're still finalizing their board, right? Like, and within the last few years, their board has been set 2 weeks out. We're less than 2 weeks out now, right? And they're still trying to put together kind of their draft plan and how they're going to execute it. So right now it's still 50-50. Yes, there's an absolute chance that they move up or they move down. But I still think there's a great chance that they stay put because they're starting to believe that the guys that they want on their board will be available at 15. And if you can get some of these guys at 15 and not have to move up, and I also think at 15, you don't have to move down to get better draft. What's the word I'm looking for here? Like
capital.
Equivalent capital, right? Like you don't have to worry about taking a guy at 15 because you're like, well, maybe he'll be available at 21 because that's not really a big, like if you want a guy at 8, or, if you have 8, but you know that you can get him in the 20s, you're going to move back so you can pick up something. Whereas if you're at 15, you're right there in the smack dab middle of this thing. So if you think a guy will be available in the mid-20s, you're probably still going to take him at 15 because it's not that big of a leap, right? It's outside the top 10. And while the NFL doesn't have a lottery, like we all know the top 10, 12 picks are all considered lottery picks in the NFL, right? Like, but you're outside that. So the equivalent that you have for guys doesn't drop much. And I still think when you look at their top 5 of guys that they would be willing to draft at 15, are almost equivalent to the same guys they would be willing to move up for. And one of those top 5 is going to be available at 15, the way that this draft is going to shake out. So I think they're in a great spot. I think there is some thought in the front office of wanting to drop back to pick up some of the draft picks that they did lose because of the nonsense over the last, calendar year with Kirk Cousins. But I don't know that thought is going to win out overall. And so I think right now it is 50-50. But none of those 3 scenarios shocks me at all. If they decide, especially if guys like that they really want, because there's a different percentage level, right? Guy that they want at 1 is very different than the guy that they would take their 5th guy on the top 5 board, right? Like there's a big difference of the impact that they believe that those guys can have. And so I think if the top 4 are gone, even though they would feel comfortable taking the 5th one at 15, they may start to look to try to trade back and see if there is any trade partners. They move back into the 20s to pick up a 4th or 5th round pick to try to, pick up additional depth at that point. But ultimately I'm not going to say I would be shocked to see them move at all. But I think there's a good chance ultimately that they stay at 15 and take somebody on their top 5.
I think you made a really good point. Like the top 1 or 2 in their top 5, they probably stand still, take their guy. And if I was them, and this is obviously just my opinion, if it's Michael Williams or Jalen Walker, just take him at 15, don't gamble. If those 2 are off the board, then I feel like everybody else on their draft board, it's almost equivalent to, if you stay at 15 and then maybe you drop back down to 25 or something like that, I feel like you could get a same caliber player there if those 2 are off the board. But one other thing, Jeff, and this
hold on.
Go ahead.
I want to address that real quick, right? I want to address something that you just brought up because I've seen this all this week. Can we please shut the fuck up about Shamar Stewart being a top 15 draft pick? I don't know why all of a sudden this dude's name is coming up there, but stop it. Absolutely stop it. That is absurd that you would even consider taking a guy like that. I don't care that he's 6'5", 270, he's a freak athlete. That dude was shit. And you're hoping that changes because he has a freak physique? Stop it. Like, it's just absolutely absurd that all of a sudden now that this is the name, people are like, oh, I'm coming around. I would take him if I'm the Falcons. No, the fuck you wouldn't. He's of the top 5 edge rushers in this draft. He's like number 12. Stop it.
If you're going to throw someone in there, that needed to be said. If you're going to throw someone in there, and this might piss you off too, Mike Green. I feel like that guy actually, he has obviously the off-field issues, but he actually does have pass rushing ability. So if we're going to go think outside the box and step outside the norm, that's the guy I would want. But Jeff, who's your top? Who, not the Falcons. I don't know if you know the top 5 off the top of your head, but who do you think should be are top 5 people?
So for me, I mean, are we going just by fantasy? Or are we talking realistic?
Just realistic. Like, yeah, don't throw Abdul. I know you're not super high on Abdul Carter. Like, you don't throw people that you don't think we have a chance. Like, Travis Hunter shouldn't be on this list, for example. Top 5 at 15.
I would take Travis Hunter anyway.
Oh, okay, interesting.
No, I have said this for a while, but for me, number 1 and number 2 are going to be Jalen Walker and Mikael Williams, right? Like those 2 guys are my absolute number 1s. Will Campbell I would take, but he's not going to be available. So for me, a realistic number 3 who may fall to them, a guy like Mason Graham out of Michigan, I would absolutely jump at and take. I would love to see that happen. There's a chance he's available. A guy that they've worked out that I would absolutely take at number 4 for me is Kelvin Banks. I think you're high on him as well. Does he fall to 15? Probably not. But that's another guy that I would absolutely take. Those would be my top 4. If you're looking at a 5th, I would go with Starks. And not that Starks is, I do agree with the Falcons. I think he is one of the best safety products to come out in probably the last decade. They have him like one of the best all time. I don't know that I would go that far, but I would say of the last decade, when you look at some of the great safeties that come out, he's up there with them. So that for me would be my top 5, right? So Walker, Williams, all of a sudden, what's his name out of Michigan? Banks and then
Graham.
Starks would be my top 5. Graham and then Banks and Starks would be my top 5.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jeff, I think that we hit everything we wanted to today. But yeah, I wanted to really give a shout out to everyone that joined in on the live stream. We'll try to give you all a bigger heads up next time and get that going. But appreciate it. The YouTube channel is really coming along. We're at 156 subscribers. And yeah, it's just incredible growth that we really couldn't do without you guys, so we really appreciate it. And yeah, just watch for this to drop on YouTube, Spotify, and we'll try to come back here almost every week and give you guys a bigger heads up for the live streams.
Yeah, hey, remember to follow, subscribe there on YouTube as well as Spotify. We are tracking the YouTube followers. We get to 500, we will do a Falcons giveaway. And then for every 500 after that, we will do another Falcons giveaway. So make sure you hit us up on there. And I appreciate it. You may see only 156 subscribers, but that's in like less than 10 days, right? Like I'm excited. I think we have some great followers. We get some great feedback, and you guys are fantastic. So I appreciate all the support. And I'm glad Andrew and I have jumped into this, and we're only going to get better.
Yeah, day by day, we keep learning, but we can't do it without you guys. So appreciate the support and see you guys next week.